Well, we start here tonight. Aspen has finally signed that deal with J&J to sell Aspen-branded COVID-19 vaccines throughout Africa. Aspen had begun discussions with J&J in November, and under the agreement, Aspen has secured the enabling intellectual property from Johnson & Johnson to package, sell, and distribute the COVID-19 vaccines. The agreement will remain in place until the 31st of December 2026. We're joined now by Group CEO Stephen Saad to tell us more. Thank you very much, Stephen, for joining us. Aspen today reported a 37% increase in profit for the half year to December. You are now supplying J&J with 20 million doses of its own vaccine per month. How much of this initial deal is attributed to your latest financial performance?
Not a very big portion, because you'll see it's only 800 million of sales out of the total turnover of close to 20 billion. So it's not a big portion at all. But certainly, because there we contract make for J&J. So the Aspen-Vax is really something really exciting. So we'll sell a vaccine for ourselves. We'll release it, we distribute it, and we're going to put it into Africa. And Africa has borne such a brunt of this disease. It's really, when you see a map of the world, which I saw in the WHO, and you see that Africa simply is there, and everyone else in the world is green in terms of their vaccine rates, except Africa, which stays in the red. So we're really excited to make a contribution there.
Stephen, of course, local production is something that is huge, and for the African continent, this being a first for Aspen and a first, a vaccine for the continent, it's something that is important that a vaccine is produced on the continent. We've heard from, the World Health Organization and many others who are saying that. I wanted to ask you about what's in it for the African continent, the African countries. Is it just that it's produced in Africa, or is it going to be a cheaper option to those that are currently available and being imported?
Yeah, I think there's a huge pride factor. So the most important, you give a certainty of access. So when the vaccine, so there's price and there's access. So when the vaccines first came out, the developed world took, and so did India. India was supposed to supply largely into Africa, and India had its own problem with COVID, and it cut supply. So then you've got nothing. So, you forget about price, you've got nothing anyway. So most important is to have regional manufacturer to make sure you look after your own continent first. Then you come to pricing, and certainly, when we look at the relative pricing, Aspen is pretty good at pricing, particularly if we get the volumes right. It's very much a volume business, this, but we should see a very competitive price out of the Aspen product. To give you a sense, the pricings, the mid-range of pricing is $5 to $10. I think South Africa might be paying between 10 and 20. This is for high volumes into the low-income markets, and we certainly would be at the more competitive edge of that range per dose. So,
Stephen, you are ramping up production right now to produce 750 million doses by February 2023. Looking at the sales volume, at what point would Aspen-Vax stop being profitable for Aspen Pharmacare?
I mean, lots going to depend on the price and the volumes, but I think for now it's going to be, we need to get orders. We've got no orders yet. We only did the agreement yesterday, but certainly the multilaterals that are the buyers have come to us and said they'd be very excited to work with us. So that's great. But I think what Aspen-Vax does, and what we shouldn't forget here we had this capability that actually the world was unaware of. And we were going to put anesthetics in that space. And we were able to pivot quickly into vaccines. And that is something that maybe it's not as well known in South Africa as the rest of the world, but the rest of the world have taken real note. You've got the heads of state in France and Germany all talking about Aspen and Aspen's capabilities. And what that did was cause many new opportunities that are coming to us. So we can We see Aspen-branded as a stepping stone to creating broader opportunities, to create broader access. For example, we can make oncology products, those are cancer products. We can make narcotic products and even insulins. So there's a broad, besides other vaccines and anesthetics, we've got a broader capability that we've created and a capacity that can be used for the benefit of patients and to create the volumes we need in our factory to be able to assist. So a very exciting time for us. And I would say what COVID vaccines did for Aspen is really accelerate the opportunity. Of 11 manufacturers in the J&J network, Aspen brought the vaccine on the quickest and produced the most, and they're referred to us as the jewel in the crown. On the back of performance, we have achieved Aspen-branded, and we are hopeful now to create broader opportunities going forward.
The markets also seems to have responded positively to the financial performance with a rise in the share price of just, nearly 5% today. But you also expect revenues and profits to jump even further from next year, starting this particular July, due to the Aspen-branded vaccine. Let me ask you about what's happening with your other peers or other pharmaceutical companies, particularly Pfizer. We've seen it trending. We've seen people worried about these side effects. Are you concerned that that particular furore around the side effects is going to put a dampener on the uptake of people when it comes to vaccines?
I'm not an expert on the medical side, but I will tell you this, just as a person that sort of understands numbers, hopefully, is that when I looked at the Pfizer report, I think they talked about 1,000 people. When you see what's in hospitals and you see the relative death rates from the unvaccinated to the vaccinated, there's very clear evidence, statistical evidence, that you really should get vaccinated. With all the vaccines are good, and the Pfizer vaccine is a good vaccine, and it saved millions of lives. In fact, they've probably done the best job in terms of creating the supply chain and distribution of all the pharmaceutical companies. So I think the medical experts would step in much sooner than the regulators. There's always going to be side effects to any medicine, even if you take a paracetamol tablet. And if you give it to 8 billion people across the world, some people are going to have some reaction to it. I certainly think that we should put the problems into proportion.
Stephen, before I let you go, let me ask you how you are rating South Africa's response so far to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are just nearing 100,000 deaths that probably we're going to reach in the next couple of days or weeks. How do you rate South Africa at this present moment, 2 years into this pandemic?
So when we started with the pandemic, our issue was supply. We were a little bit unlucky. We had AstraZeneca and it went, and there were some other issues. But I think that, and then we had the problems with emergent supply to Aspen of drug substance. But South Africa's got enough supply of product. In fact, they might be writing off stock if they don't get it. I think the critical thing we have now is that we need demand stimulation, particularly amongst the younger people. They might not get sick, but they make others sick. So it's quite selfish not to be vaccinated. So I think we've got to look at how we improve demand in that age group. Certainly, I think getting it to the people and creating more awareness is going to be important, because certainly our daily offtakes are stagnating, which is a little sad, because although people over, I think it's 40 or 50, have got quite a high vaccination rate, close to 70%, 60 or 70 in this country. Younger people don't.
Stephen Saad, the CEO at Aspen Pharmacare, thank you very much for your time.